I was 60 years old when I finally used my passport. Even now, saying those words out loud feels a little strange. Most people collect passport stamps in their 20s. Mine sat in a drawer for years without a single stamp. Every time I thought about taking a trip, something else seemed more important. There was always another bill to pay, another responsibility waiting for me, or another reason to tell myself, maybe next year. Eventually, next year turned into decades. One morning, I was getting ready for work when I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. For some reason, I just stood there, staring at myself. Work wasn't on my mind, neither was retirement. The only question running through my mind was, how many healthy years do I really have left? That question followed me all the way to the hospital. By lunchtime, I still couldn't stop thinking about it. When my shift finally ended and I climbed into my car, I sat in the parking lot for nearly 20 minutes before turning the key. For the first time in my life, I asked myself something I had been avoiding for years. Was I building a future, or was I postponing the life I'd always wanted? 3 months later, I handed in my resignation, sold my house, packed everything I wanted to keep into 2 suitcases, booked my flight to the Philippines, and started the biggest adventure of my life. Most people thought I was making a terrible mistake. I understood why they felt that way. A few months earlier, I probably would have agreed with them. If someone had asked me at 20 years old what I wanted most in life, I wouldn't have said a bigger house or an expensive car. I would have told them I wanted to see the world. There was something about travel that fascinated me. I'd sit in the library flipping through books filled with places I'd never heard of, tiny villages tucked into mountains, crowded markets, tropical beaches, cities where I couldn't even read the street signs. It all felt so far away. Sometimes I'd unfold a world map across my kitchen table and trace imaginary trips with my finger. One country, then another, then another. I wasn't planning a vacation. I was daydreaming about a life that felt completely out of reach. Back then, I honestly believed I'd get there someday. Life just had other plans. I got married in my 20s. A few years later, we had our son. Suddenly, my priorities changed. Travel became something we talked about instead of something we actually did. There was always a reason to wait. The mortgage came first, then replacing the car, then braces, then college. Every time I thought about taking a trip, I'd tell myself the same thing. There's plenty of time. Looking back now, that was probably the biggest lie I ever told myself. Life has a funny way of convincing you that there's always more time. 1 year turns into 5, 5 quietly becomes 15. Before you realize it, decades have slipped by. I spent almost 35 years working in healthcare. Most of that time was in the admissions department of a hospital. I wasn't a doctor, I wasn't a nurse. I was one of the people helping patients get checked in, answering questions, and trying to make what was often one of the hardest days of their lives just a little less stressful. There were parts of the job I genuinely loved. The people I worked with became like family. We celebrated birthdays together, covered each other's shifts, shared stories over coffee in the break room. There were plenty of laughs over the years. But there were also mornings when I walked through those automatic hospital doors and wondered how many more times I'd be doing the exact same thing. The work wasn't what wore me down. It was waking up to the exact same routine year after year. Monday looked like Tuesday. Tuesday looked like Wednesday. Every week blended into the next. The alarm rang before sunrise, coffee, drive to work, 8 hours under fluorescent lights, drive home, heat up dinner, watch television until I got sleepy, do it all again the next morning. I don't think I realized how repetitive my life had become because it happened so slowly. Routine has a way of feeling normal when you're living it every day. My marriage didn't last. After 26 years together, we finally admitted we wanted different things out of life. There wasn't some dramatic betrayal, no screaming matches, no explosive ending. Sometimes two people simply grow into different versions of themselves. Our son was already an adult by then, building a life of his own. He had a good career. Eventually, he got married. We stayed in touch, but not the way we had when he was younger. We'd usually catch up every couple of weeks, sometimes longer if life got busy. I never blamed him for that. He was doing exactly what I'd spent years encouraging him to do: build a good life. Still, the house felt noticeably quieter after the divorce. Some evenings I'd walk through the front door, set my purse on the kitchen counter, and the only sound in the house was the refrigerator humming. At first, I enjoyed the peace. Eventually, the silence started feeling heavier than I wanted to admit. People often asked if I was lonely. When I really thought about it, I wasn't lonely because I lived alone. I was lonely because every day felt exactly the same. That's a different kind of loneliness, the kind that sneaks up on you. You don't notice it all at once. It settles in little by little until one day you realize you've been existing more than you've been living. I started looking forward to the smallest things: Friday evening, a holiday weekend, ordering takeout instead of cooking, a new series on Netflix. Those little moments weren't bad, they just became the highlights of my week. One evening, I caught myself scrolling through travel videos on YouTube for nearly 2 hours. Italy, Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines. I wasn't researching anything. I was imagining what it might feel like to wake up somewhere completely unfamiliar, to hear a language I didn't understand, to get lost, to explore, to feel curious again. When the videos ended, I'd shut off the television, brush my teeth, and get ready for work the next morning. It felt like I was watching someone else live the life I'd always imagined for myself. Then something happened that I still think about today. One afternoon, a coworker walked into the break room carrying a retirement card. Someone we'd worked with for years was leaving. Everyone signed it. We hugged her. We wished her the best. As I watched her walk out the hospital doors for the last time, I smiled. Then a thought hit me that I couldn't shake. She was 67. That meant 7 more years, 7 more birthdays, 7 more Christmases, 7 more summers, 7 more years of telling myself, someday. I drove home that evening with the radio turned off. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about work. I was thinking about time. Not money, not retirement accounts. Time. Because no matter how carefully I planned my future, there was one thing I couldn't save. That night, I pulled out a yellow legal pad from my kitchen drawer. I wasn't planning to quit my job. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. I just wanted to see if leaving early was even possible. For nearly 2 hours, I sat at my dining room table writing numbers. Mortgage balance, home value, savings, my 401k, monthly bills, what I spent on groceries, insurance, gas, everything. More than anything, I hoped the numbers would convince me to stay. Instead, the numbers started telling a different story. If I stayed until my full retirement age, my Social Security check would be higher every month. There was no question about that. Financially, waiting made sense. But every time I added another year to my spreadsheet, I couldn't help thinking about everything that came with it. Another year of alarms before sunrise. Another year of sitting in traffic. Another year of asking for vacation days. Another year of saying, maybe next year. The numbers on the paper weren't the only thing I was calculating anymore. I was calculating time. Over the next few weeks, I kept making small adjustments. I'd come home from work, eat dinner, then sit back down with that same yellow legal pad. Some nights I'd convince myself it was impossible. Other nights I'd think, maybe I really can do this. I even made a list with 2 columns, reasons to stay, reasons to leave. The stay side filled up quickly. Steady paycheck, health insurance, a predictable routine, friends at work, familiarity, everything I'd spent years building. The leave side only had 1 sentence. Finally lived the life I've been postponing. Somehow, that 1 sentence carried more weight than everything on the other side of the page. I wasn't trying to become wealthy anymore. I was trying to become present. There's a difference. Money can buy comfort. It can't buy another healthy year once it's gone. Working in a hospital had taught me that better than any financial planner ever could. Every week, I'd meet people who thought they had more time. Some recovered and went home. Others didn't. Watching that year after year changes the way you think. It certainly changed mine. One Saturday morning, I poured myself a cup of coffee and called my financial advisor. I expected him to talk me out of the idea. Instead, he asked me a question. Are you looking for the biggest retirement account or the retirement you actually want? We talked for almost an hour. He explained the trade-offs. If I stopped working now, I'd be living on the equity from selling my house, my savings, and carefully planned withdrawals from my retirement account. When I turned 62, I could start collecting Social Security if I chose, even though my monthly benefit would be lower than if I waited until my full retirement age. None of it was a secret. None of it was magical. It was simply a choice. More money later or more life now. I didn't make the decision that day. In fact, I spent another month trying to convince myself to wait. Every morning I'd drive to work thinking, just stay a few more years. Every evening I'd drive home thinking, I don't know if I can. It felt like I was arguing with myself every single day. One version of me wanted security. The other wanted freedom. Neither one was wrong. That's what made the decision so difficult. Then my birthday arrived, 60. My coworkers surprised me with a cake in the break room. There were balloons taped to the wall. Someone had written, "Happy 60th, Lisa." Everyone laughed. We ate cake, took pictures, talked about retirement. One of my coworkers smiled and said, "Only 7 more years." Everyone laughed again. I laughed too. But inside, something changed. 7 years no longer sounded short. It sounded enormous. I went home that evening, walked into my living room, and looked around the house I'd spent years paying for. It was nice, comfortable, safe. Then I caught myself asking the same question that had been following me for months. If I keep waiting, what exactly am I waiting for? That night, I opened my laptop, updated my resume one last time. Then I closed it without saving. I wasn't looking for another job. I was ready to start looking for a different life. Once I made the decision, I didn't tell anyone. For almost 2 weeks, the only person who knew was me. I wanted to be absolutely certain before I started saying the words out loud. Because I knew the moment I did, everything would become real. Every evening after work, I'd come home, sit at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, and imagine what life might look like 6 months from now. Some nights I'd feel excited. Other nights I'd wonder if I'd completely lost my mind. I must have changed my mind a dozen times before I finally admitted something to myself. I wasn't afraid of moving. I was afraid of leaving behind the life I'd spent 40 years building. Those are 2 very different things. The first person I told was my son. I called him on a Saturday afternoon. After we talked about work, the weather, and a few other things, I finally said, "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." He laughed. "You're not getting married again, are you?" I laughed too. "No." Then I took a deep breath. "I'm leaving my job." There was a pause. Already? I could hear the surprise in his voice. He knew I'd talked about retiring someday. He just didn't expect someday to arrive so soon. I've been thinking about it for months, I told him. I think I'm ready. He asked the same question almost everyone else would eventually ask. What are you going to do? I smiled before answering. Travel. Another pause. Where? Honestly, I hope everywhere I can. A few days later, I told him about the Philippines. He was quiet for a moment. Why the Philippines? It was a fair question. Honestly, a year earlier, I probably couldn't have pointed to it on a map. I told him I'd spent months researching different countries. I looked at Portugal, Costa Rica, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia. Each one had something I liked, but I kept finding myself coming back to the Philippines. English was widely spoken. People described the locals as welcoming. The cost of living meant I wouldn't have to spend every day worrying about money. Most importantly, it gave me a comfortable place to call home while finally exploring the part of the world I'd dreamed about since I was a little girl. I wasn't moving there because it was perfect. I was moving there because it made the life I'd imagined possible. My son listened without interrupting. Finally, he asked, "Are you sure?" I appreciated that he didn't tell me I was making a mistake. He just wanted to know if I'd really thought it through. I've never been more sure of anything, I said. He let out a long breath. Then I guess all I can say is, promise you'll call me. That sentence meant more to me than he'll probably ever know. Telling my coworkers was a completely different experience. Word spread through the hospital faster than I expected. By lunchtime, people I'd barely spoken to in years were stopping by my desk. Is it true? You're actually leaving? Where are you going? When I told them, most of them smiled. Then they looked confused. The Philippines? I nodded. Some admitted they'd never even considered it. Others immediately started asking questions. Is it safe? Do you know anyone there? What if you don't like it? What if you get homesick? They weren't trying to discourage me. They were asking the same questions they'd ask about any place that felt unfamiliar. Honestly, I'd asked myself every one of those questions already. One afternoon, I was eating lunch in the break room when one of the nurses sat down beside me. She'd been at the hospital longer than I had. She smiled and said, "You know what I think? I think you're braver than the rest of us." I shook my head. I don't feel brave. She looked at me for a second and said something I'll never forget. Brave people almost never do. I thought about those words all the way home that evening. Maybe courage isn't about feeling fearless. Maybe it's deciding that something matters more than the fear. For me, that something was finally living the life I'd spent decades imagining. I walked into my house that night, looked around at everything I'd accumulated over the years, and realized something. Soon, almost all of it would belong to someone else. That thought should have made me sad. Instead, it made me feel surprisingly free. Once the house officially went on the market, there was no turning back. The first thing I did was walk from room to room with a yellow pad and a pen. I wasn't making a packing list. I was deciding what 40 years of my life looked like when it was reduced to 2 suitcases. That turned out to be much harder than I expected. Most of it wasn't worth much money. What made it hard was the memories attached to every single piece. The coffee mug I'd used nearly every morning for 15 years. The recliner where I'd spent countless evenings reading. boxes of Christmas decorations I hadn't opened in years, a bookshelf filled with novels I always meant to read again. None of it was expensive, but it had become part of my life. The hardest room was the spare bedroom. After my son moved out, I never really changed it. The furniture was different, the paint had been updated, but there were still reminders of the years he'd lived under that roof. An old baseball glove tucked away in the closet, a few school awards packed into a box, a faded photograph from one of our camping trips. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time holding that picture. He couldn't have been more than 10 years old. I remember thinking how quickly children grow up. Now I was wondering how quickly parents grow old. I slipped the photo into the folder I planned to keep. Some things don't need a frame to matter. As the weeks passed, strangers started walking through my house. Every time there was a showing, I'd straighten the pillows, wipe down the kitchen counters, and leave for an hour or two while someone decided whether they wanted to buy the place I'd called home for nearly 3 decades. It felt strange watching people open closets, measure rooms, and talk about where they'd put their furniture. Slowly, it stopped feeling like my house. It was becoming someone else's future. The day I accepted an offer, I expected to cry. Instead, I felt calm. Not because I wasn't emotional, because I finally understood something. Home had never been the walls. Home had been the life I lived inside them, and that was something I could take with me. Then came the packing. If you've ever packed for a vacation, you know how difficult it is to decide what to bring. Now imagine packing for an entirely new life. Every shirt, every pair of shoes, every jacket, every keepsake, every document, every photograph. Every decision meant something else had to stay behind. I quickly learned that 2 suitcases fill up much faster than you'd expect. I'd hold something in my hands and ask myself one question: will I really need this? Sometimes the answer was obvious. Other times, I'd stand there for 5 minutes trying to convince myself there had to be room. There usually wasn't. I donated bags of clothes, sold furniture I'd once been proud to own, gave dishes to a young couple buying their first home. A neighbor took my lawnmower. Another friend wanted the patio furniture. Piece by piece, the life I'd spent decades building disappeared. One afternoon, I opened a drawer in my bedroom and found a small notebook. I'd completely forgotten about it. Inside were little lists I'd written over the years, places I wanted to visit someday: Japan, Vietnam, Italy, Thailand, the Philippines. Some had little stars beside them. Others had notes like, "Try the local food, watch the sunrise, take lots of pictures." I smiled. That notebook had survived 3 moves, a divorce, countless spring cleanings. Apparently, some part of me had never stopped believing those dreams might come true. That notebook went straight into my suitcase, without question. Moving day arrived faster than I expected. The movers loaded the last few boxes into the truck. I walked through every room one final time. The house echoed. There were no pictures on the walls, no furniture, no television humming in the background, just empty rooms. I stood in the middle of the living room and looked around. For a moment, I could almost see every version of my life that had happened there. Christmas mornings, birthday dinners, movie nights, homework at the kitchen table, quiet evenings after the divorce. Some of the best days of my life had happened inside those walls. So had some of the hardest. I quietly said, "Thank you." I wasn't thanking the house. I was thanking the chapter of my life that had unfolded inside it. Then I picked up my 2 suitcases, locked the front door one last time, and walked away. The morning I left for the airport didn't feel the way I expected. I thought I'd be emotional. I thought I'd cry. Instead, I was focused, almost strangely calm, maybe because there was nothing left to decide. The house was sold, my job was behind me, Everything I owned was sitting beside me in 2 suitcases. The life I'd been planning for months had finally become real. As the plane lifted off, I looked out the window until I couldn't recognize anything below. Cities became tiny dots. Roads disappeared. Clouds filled the sky. I remember thinking, well, there's no turning back now. For the first time in decades, I had absolutely no idea what my life would look like 6 months later. Oddly enough, that uncertainty felt exciting. The flight was long enough to replay every major decision I'd ever made. Getting married, buying my first house, becoming a mother, signing my divorce papers, leaving my job, selling my home. Every one of those moments had changed the direction of my life. This one felt different. Those decisions had happened because life demanded them. This one happened because I chose it. When the plane finally landed in Manila, I looked out the window and smiled. I had spent months reading about the Philippines, watching videos, looking at maps, trying to imagine what it would feel like. None of it compared to actually being there. As soon as the aircraft door opened, the warm air rushed inside. It felt completely different from home. The sounds were different too. Voices, announcements, people laughing, luggage rolling across the floor. Everything felt unfamiliar. And for the first time in years, I loved not knowing exactly what came next. Walking through the airport, I realized something that made me laugh. I wasn't on vacation. Normally, vacations have an ending. You already know the date you'll be flying home. This time, there wasn't a countdown. I wasn't visiting. I was beginning a new chapter. That thought was both exciting and just a little intimidating. My first few days weren't glamorous. Jet lag hit me harder than I expected. I woke up at 2 a.m, wide awake. By lunchtime, I could barely keep my eyes open. I had to learn where to buy groceries, figure out which phone plan made sense, learn how to get around. Simple things suddenly required a lot more thought than they ever had back home. I made plenty of mistakes. I bought the wrong products, got turned around more than once, accidentally carried far too much cash one afternoon because I still wasn't used to thinking in pesos. Each mistake taught me something. Little by little, the unfamiliar started feeling familiar. People always ask me what stood out first. Honestly, it was the people. Long before I noticed the beaches or the palm trees, I noticed how often strangers smiled. Cashiers smiled. Neighbors waved. People struck up conversations while I was standing in line. Back home, I'd gotten used to everyone being in a hurry. Here, people often seemed more interested in the person standing in front of them than the clock on the wall. That took some getting used to, in the best possible way. About a week after I arrived, I walked to a small neighborhood cafe one morning. I ordered a cup of coffee, found a seat near the window, and watched the world go by. Scooters, students walking to school, street vendors setting up for the day, families heading to work. It wasn't a tourist attraction. It was just an ordinary morning, and somehow it felt extraordinary to me. I wasn't rushing anywhere. Nobody was waiting for me to clock in. Nobody expected me to answer emails. For the first time in longer than I could remember, my day belonged entirely to me. I wrapped both hands around my coffee cup and quietly smiled. Not because everything was perfect, because after 40 years of living by someone else's schedule, I finally had the freedom to create my own. A few weeks later, I opened my passport again. This time, not to look at a blank book, but to prepare for my first trip outside the Philippines. The dream I'd carried since I was a little girl was finally beginning, one stamp at a time. About 2 months after I settled into my new routine, I booked a short trip to Thailand. When I was younger, that would have sounded impossible. Now it felt almost ordinary. I packed a small carry-on, grabbed my passport, and headed to the airport. As I stood in line waiting to board, I caught myself smiling. Not because I was flying somewhere new, because this was exactly the life I'd imagined all those years ago, while sitting at my kitchen table studying maps. Only now, I wasn't imagining it anymore. I was living it. Thailand was everything I'd hoped it would be. The food, the markets, the temples, the excitement of hearing another language all around me. Every street seemed to offer something I'd never seen before. I spent hours simply walking. No schedule, no meetings, no alarm clock waiting for me the next morning, just curiosity leading the way. One afternoon, I found myself sitting at a little cafe, watching people go about their day. I reached into my bag and pulled out my passport. There it was, another stamp. I laughed to myself. After carrying around a blank passport for almost 40 years, it suddenly looked like it finally belonged to me. Over the next couple of years, I visited Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Japan. I never traveled just to collect another stamp. Each place taught me something different. Some trips were only a few days. Others lasted a little longer. Sometimes I'd return home to the Philippines tired from traveling. I'd unlock my apartment, set down my suitcase, and feel something I hadn't expected. Relief. Because as much as I loved exploring, the Philippines had become home. That surprised me. When I first arrived, I thought of it as my starting point. Eventually, it became the place I looked forward to coming back to. People often ask me if I ever miss America. Of course I do. I miss certain restaurants. I miss autumn. I miss watching football on Sunday afternoons. Most of all, I miss being able to hug my son whenever I wanted. Moving overseas doesn't erase those feelings. If anything, it makes you appreciate them even more. But something else changed too. Back home, I was always counting down until Friday, counting down until vacation, counting down until retirement. My life always seemed to exist somewhere in the future. Here, I stopped counting. I started noticing. Morning walks, fresh fruit from the local market, conversations with people I'd just met, watching the rain roll in during the afternoon. Simple moments became enough. I hadn't realized how much of my life I'd spent rushing until I finally slowed down. One evening, while sitting on my balcony watching the sunset, I started thinking about the woman I used to be. The woman who believed she needed everything perfectly planned before she could start living. The woman who kept saying, "Maybe next year." I wished I could sit beside her for just 5 minutes. Not to tell her every decision would work out, because life doesn't work that way. I'd simply tell her this: don't wait for the perfect time. It rarely shows up. Looking back now, I don't think the biggest change was moving across the world. The biggest change happened long before I packed my suitcases. It happened the day I stopped believing that life would automatically begin after retirement. That was the day everything changed. I still live carefully. I still budget. I still think about the future. Moving to the Philippines didn't magically remove every worry from my life. I still have unexpected expenses. I still miss people back home. I still have days where nothing goes according to plan. That's simply life. The difference is, my life finally feels like it's mine. Not my employer's, not my calendar's. Mine.